So our next speaker is Karl Hartley. He's the Director of AI Learning Strategy at Epic Learning Limited. Karl brings more than 20 years of experience in digital learning and over a decade of expertise developing NZQA assessments. And his work today focuses on how artificial intelligence can transform vocational education. So please welcome Karl Hartley.
Hey whānau, I'm Karl Hartley, and today I'm going to be talking about future-proofing assessments. A majority of what I'm going to be talking about today is through the hard work working with ConCOVE about seeing where we can take generative AI and assessments and go the whole way. Can we take a micro-credential, treat it like a human would do, go through the entire process of creating that assessment, go through the moderation process, see what we get, then can we personalise that? And can we make it a great experience for our learners? That was the goal, and that's what we've been trying to say. I only have 20 minutes. It's a big report. So you guys are going to get the highlights. We talk about insights and action. I'm going to be highlighting some of the actions we can pick up as an industry to try and get some of the learnings we got along the way. I wanted to add a slide to show some of the scope of how much work it went into the AI generation that we went through. So it's 100,000. It's 1,000 plus assessments that we generated. That's around 30K questions and about 20 million tokens. And if you don't know what tokens are, they're basically what AI does to convert a word into digital speak. It's about 7 Harry Potter books, and it's quite massive. And to think about, as someone who's made a lot of assessments in his life with his team, 1,000 assessments would be almost impossible to do in a short amount of time. But with AI, we were able to go through that amount and actually fine-tune our methods. I would like to think that this is the infrastructure for AI development around assessments for the construction area. And that's what I want you guys to think. I've done the paving to make your job a bit easier if you want to take up creating assessments. Sorry. Click harder. Quick backstory about how it all started. I was working with HIA, the Housing Industry Association in Australia. Yes, over the ditch, we're writing assessments. And we had the problem where every time we wrote an assessment, we had to adapt it to every territory. See, everyone had their own different jargon, their permits, even though if they were exactly the same permit, they'll have different names. You know Australians, they love their nicknames for everything. So we're doing these, constantly updating these different assessments. We discovered that AI is great at taking a base assessment and overlaying it and adding some flavour or tweaking it. So we're very successful about being able to create a baseline and be able to adapt it for each one of those. That gave me the big insight, which led to the discussion with ConCOVE and Eve Price about how can we take this further and create a report that really does the foundational work for everyone. I know I've only got 20 minutes, so I'm going to blast through this slide pretty quickly. Why this project? Micro-credentials are critical. We're seeing them more and more important that they come into as an option for learners, but creating assessments takes ages. Has anyone ever worked with writing assessments? It doesn't matter how fast you go, there's just work that needs to be done, and a lot of it is very, well, time-consuming. It's also inconsistent, and if anyone's been part of the assessment process, it's very difficult to continue to get to a high quality. Educators finding it difficult to keep up with this. We are getting more and more diverse learners, and at the moment we're writing assessments for one size fits all, cookie cutter assessments. So when you're writing these assessments, you're thinking about how do we get everyone into one box? And that's what we're trying to solve with personalisation. Finally, let's make sure we do it safe and with integrity. A couple of key pillars. We wanted to be human-centred. So I want to go through every single step along the way of creation as if what a human would do, and we can AI assist them. Recognising that is irreplaceable. Our instincts, we've been doing this, we can AI assist us. Like I said, follow the assessment journey, AI safety and ethics first was the number one thing we built into our approach at every single level. And then there's quality assurance. What can we do to make sure we're still trying to be world class? These are the original research questions, and what we discovered as we went through is they started having to adapt because we're researching. We didn't actually know what you're going to get. But here's a couple. Generally, can AI generate a valid moderation ready assessment? Can we use prompt engineering to create these high quality assessments following all the best practices? Ethics and considerations when writing AI. I know everyone's first experience with AI and assessments 2 years ago when ChatGPT first came out was probably terrible and lots of hallucinations. So let's try and take that out of the equation, and where are we now? And then finally, it's the personalization. So this is the holy grail. Stop making one run for many to individual ones for everyone when possible. I've slotted this slide in because if any kind of Q&A, these are the ones that always pop up first, because everyone's going, oh, I want to try this at work, I want to try this at work. So I thought I'll touch on it right now, talking about action and insight. So here's your first action and insight. So the risk was AI hallucinations. So we were going to mitigate it through structured prompt design and human review. What we learnt is the ability to hallucinate is actually the AI's ability to be creative. And part of a great assessment writing is being able to write case studies, is being able to personalize. So it's a little bit of a trap to say we're going to eliminate all hallucination, right? More to that a little bit later on. Cultural bias. So we built an ethical framework. We're really worried that these AIs were going to be culturally inappropriate and be all over the place, similar to what we experienced when AI first came out. Here's another quick takeaway. The biggest issue I had with dealing with AI is the culture of American assessment writing. They love the SATs, they love their multi-choice, they love the grading system. The concept of whether something's a pass or a fail, they want percentages. I spent more time trying to get that out of the system than any kind of ethical problems. Then privacy, we made just synthetic data. So everything we used was all made for research purposes. Okay, so phase one, this is the base assessment. Remember, we want to make an assessment that we can get past moderation, and then we can make duplicates or personalization. So we want to select the best AI model, develop the workflows, get our subject matter experts involved, and get it off to moderation and see how we do. The second part to this work was the personalization. This is the money part. Now, can we create learner personas that we can then create prompts around to personalize the assessment specifically for them? Again, that was the goal, and that's what we're going to get into. Let's get to the actual good stuff, right? So, picking the best model. Claude, if you haven't heard of it, it's the developers are originally from OpenAI, who are the guys who made ChatGPT, but they have a much, stronger ethical framework on how they decide, how they deal with data. They don't train off their users' data unless they choose to, and that's off by default, where other places just gather it all up. But the secret sauce around Claude, and I said, if you ever do want to start prompting and getting into this, is test it against the NZQA guidelines and the ethical standards. It aced it every single time I tested it. Hundreds of times I challenged it, and it always came out with great responses. So that's how I knew it was the right one for us. More details in the report. Ignore the giant prompt on the side. It's just an example of how big these prompts are as they got through as kind of getting the results that we wanted. So in order to mimic the way humans make assessments, I broke down the first part of the base development into two phases or stages. One is the analysing. So if you know anyone in your team or you write assessments yourself, you want to be looking at your micro-credential or unit standard, reading it through, go, okay, what type of question breakdown do you need to meet these outcomes? Should it be a case study? Should it be long answers, short answers? How to do that. So build a specific prompt in order to do that, to make the plan. Analyze planning and scaffolding. And then through chain of thought prompting, use of variables, we created the example questions and the assessment guides. You may have heard about the latest models being able to reason. This was a little bit before these models came out. So this is effectively manual reasoning models. The use of variables is probably the secret sauce that I shouldn't be sharing with you guys, because this enabled me to be able to plug and play different variables, whether it's different types of questions, different types of tweaks to try and get rid of some of the Americanisms that was creeping in. And this is how you tweak the prompt, by just altering the variables instead of rewriting the entire prompt. So this is why we generated so many assessments. Because once you've done the planning, you have all the ingredients just to tune out assessments. So we're doing batches of 5 to 10 at a time. Bam. We chug them out, and then we go through our review process. This is the old school method. So create the assessment, send it out for review, and then collect feedback and get up and update it. That's how we would do. This is when we manually do it, send it out to your peers, they review it, come back. I'm making 10 at a time. We don't have enough people to do this. This system, it doesn't work anymore. So another action insight is when you're dealing with AI and rapid development, old methods of review don't work anymore. They're not fast enough. So we had to invent a new system. I called it the rapid no-go, no-go. Karl batches up another assessment, spits it out. As the developer, I'll do a quick look and I go, okay, it's following the prompts, it's lined up, it looks good, send it off to the subject matter. They have a go, no-go call. Does this look good to them? It does. We do a full review. At any point, we'll say, nah, that was it. We just threw 20 minutes away, who cares? I tweak the prompts, see how we go. One thing that we really came through in the research is how much AI is non-deterministic, which means you can give the same prompt over and over and you'll get slightly different answers. You may have had this happen to yourself where you have the perfect prompt and you show it off to everyone, then they try it and it's rubbish. That's non-deterministic in action. So we had to develop ways to reduce that down to an acceptable amount. Hence, we can go, no go real quickly. Next piece, and this honestly broke my subject matter expert's brain a bit, is I flipped the feedback. Stop fixing the mistakes, only look at the good stuff. So only go for good. That's some rewiring of brains there. The reason being, if you highlight the great question and you know why it's great, give that to me, I could add it back as a variable. So now the engine is a bit smarter and now knows that version of that question should be in this frame. If it's rubbish, just ignore it, because we can generate them that quick. Game changer. So it turned a slow process that was taking ages to rapid development. Again, how can you get through 1,000 assessments and still get great outcomes? Here's a bit of a screenshot of what it looked like as the questions were getting generated. This is one of the earlier ones. Try to include as much troubleshooting, getting the AI's thoughts on its reasoning, how it maps back. The reason why I want to show this is when I got it to generate just questions, it generated rubbish questions. When I got it to be in charge of writing the model answer, as well as give its reasoning, its quality went right up. Get you thinking, right? If it's modeled off people, and you know you're not getting checked, you give rubbish answers, right? So by making it have to check itself, improved quality. Okay, so mission one was to make the base assessment. We created it, but a couple of things came through. The planning stage, or the analysis part, just wasn't meeting what I would say a human could do. We had 2 control assessments made by humans, so I had a bit of an idea of what it should look like, and it wasn't hitting it enough for me to be comfortable to say, hey, this prompt can do it. Maybe hitting it 1 and 4, or more like 4 and 10. So it wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. So I ended up making the decision to use the human-made assessment structure, so the analyze plan part, but still let the AI create the questions. Then we set it to moderation and it failed. But in the report we go to a lot more detail. It just highlighted to me, by going big with a micro-credential, with unit standards inside it, with all that complexity built into it, AI just wasn't ready to kind of work through that. Generally, there was positive feedback on the actual questions. So if I was to frame up phase 1, I would say analysis not so great. Humans need to do that. Part 2, though, creating questions, the AI is really good at. And you can only get better if you're mining the gold and keeping your gold standards. Moving quickly. So, base assessment, I give it almost a pass. So we got close to it, but we're still comfortable enough to actually send it out with the personalisation. We developed 2 personas, one for English as a second language and one is autism level 2 with a bit of ADHD feedback on top of that. So we made it, the two personas to generate specifically for these types of learners. We made up complex personas. This is probably more than we're ever going to be able to do, but I really wanted to test the AI. If we can give it everything it needs to make a great assessment, can we do that? Again, this is synthetic data, even though it's modeled after someone I know. This is another take notice moment. As I alluded to around hallucination, the assessor instructions here have been personalized by the AI. That was a hallucination. If I was going to be following my own rules, I would have thrown that one in the trash because it's not following the prompt. It's only meant to be doing questions. So the AI took it upon itself and said, in order to make this meet what Karl's asked for, which is world-class assessment, we need to personalize the assessor so they know more about the learner. Unexpected find, as I was doing my go, no-go check, popped up and went, wow, that's really good. I'm going to pretend I came up with that idea. But it was totally out of scope. The AI made it a variable, slotted it back into the engine, and now every single assessment now has personalized assessor notes. And as you can see, the assessor notes are what really is the game changer, because when we went to as you can see, the personalizations to the questions, I would say, were pretty cool. But the deeper help when it came is when the assessor knew more about the learner and can adapt how they ask their questions, how much time to look for. They may have a knowledge gap on how to deal with someone that has autism, where there needs to be the quiet space, and they can pre-plan that before the assessment happens. And this doesn't happen in our usual assessment. The great thing is, everything to do with this assessor personalization can be done without having to go through moderation. This can be done on top of assessments that are existing right now. Okay, so the personalization was a huge success. All the subject matter experts that we spoke to loved it, and they immediately gravitated to the assessor notes and noted how often these are skipped and how much pressure assessors are under and maybe missing key things that would help learners. One of the suggestions that came through is to do another level of personalization where it's personalized to the learner and the assessor based on their current knowledge, opportunities for workplace personalization, so what type of industry and what type of equipment you have on site, and RLP is a real opportunity in this space as well. Okay, and challenges. Okay, little rant time. It's been really hard because AI just keeps changing. And I don't know if you've seen on the news about how ChatGPT 5 came out and everyone missed the old version. Well, it's a bit like that. It's like the personality changes every time a new version comes out. So imagine if you're Karl with a super duper fancy prompting and variables, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, reset, right? So this is a challenge that's always going to be, we need to keep updating. I can't understate the amount of the US assessments is the biggest problem dealing with it, and it's US grammar, and they may have processes that they do are so in depth in their culture that it will always come through the model. We need to be looking out for that. And AI always makes mistakes, so just build systems around it. We talked about that already. Quick final thoughts. I'm super excited about what we got with the report. I want to share it with you guys. It's in detail. It's a rough read, but I think when I say that it's foundational stuff, it will raise everyone up. I made 1,000 assessments, so you don't have to, right? And some of the prompts that will help you kind of get set up. The moderation stuff, I know I want to spend more time on that. We got great feedback. The moderation teams were awesome. It was probably more along the lines of we could adapt to that. But we just didn't have enough time. Yes, and I'm super, super excited about personalization, guys. This is my dream, because if someone's written a lot of assessments and it just feels like I'm writing one for many, and it breaks my heart, this is the opportunity we can turn a corner and change that. I'm out of time by a long way, I think. Thanks, guys.
Karl, thank you. I mean, your enthusiasm is contagious. And truly, AI as a topic needs a lot more than 20 minutes.
I know, I'm sorry.
So much more than 20 minutes. I've got battle stories to tell also. But it was lovely listening to you. We're not... there are some offers for jobs around. Do you want a job? I am sure lots of rich conversation afterwards in networking, and please catch up with Karl. There's some incredible work happening there. But I say again, if it comes to knowledge economy versus being a tradie, I pick being a tradie at the moment. Thank you, Karl. Oh, and I need to give you this. Thank you.